What's up, everybody? My name's CrazyToast, and welcome to my review of the Alecto Tier 4 Tank Destroyer. Now, before I begin, I've been having some problems trying to figure out how to actually lay out these reviews. The first video I did with the M6, I felt it was a little more than rambling, really. So, I wrote up a script and tried to read off the script, and I sounded like a robot. So I'm going to try to combine the two. I'm going to go on and off the script, or, you know, whatever. So let's see how it goes. I'm going to break it into a few parts. Basically, I'm going to do the general history of, you know, how it is, and how it actually is represented in the game, kind of compare the two, and then, you know, go on from there. So, let's begin. The development of the Alecto started in 1942, based off the Light Tank Mark 8, which is the Tetrarch's successor. It was made by the Vickers Armstrong Company. Important fact, at the time, after the loss of the Battle of France, light tanks were considered a liability to the British Armed Forces, since armored cars were better suited to the recon role. Light tanks were only used as recon in the British Army. They were considered a liability after the British were forced to use their light tanks against German armor and were subsequently destroyed. So the Alecto project ran into problems, and trials were not started until 1944. The problems were not solved until after the war, and by that time the Alecto was considered obsolete and the project was cancelled. Unlike in World of Tanks, the Alecto was never meant to engage tanks. It was considered a self-propelled gun. It was basically meant to destroy fortifications and provide indirect fire. It was never actually meant to be used like it is. It's not really a tank destroyer. The tank was too small to mount large enough weapons to engage tanks that Allied forces were combating at the end of the war. None of these tanks were actually ever put into combat. In-game, it's a tank destroyer. It's quick, and it's small. It's not the fastest thing, but it gets the job done. It's able to shoot most enemies, one-hit kill them, of Tier 4 and lower, with a few exceptions. One of them being the Matilda. I think the other one's the Valentine, the AMX-40, and the Lee. Got to watch out for those things, especially, well, at least when you're using the 3.7 inch howitzer and the 25-pounder howitzer. The armor rating, as you can see, is 10 millimeters all the way across. However, I think that might be wrong. Well, at least most of it. I've bounced plenty of rounds off this mantelpiece. Things that should have went through as completely bounced. So I think that rating's a little deceiving. You can bounce shots if you're lucky. The open top. This tank is really weird. I've taken no hits, like the round has gone over the tank, it seems like, and I've lost crew members. A round could come in and go about right here, and I'd lose the driver, or the gunner. Really weird. HE shells going off right next to the tank, you could lose a crew member. So you really have to watch out. So the armor, there's barely any armor. And there's not really a lot of hit points. Especially with the lack of armor. There's nothing really to stop those 270 hit points from disappearing rather quickly. I usually don't get many hits before I explode, especially if you run up against Shermans with, you know, 105s, loading gold rounds. You're dead. The tracks are a concern with mobility. Basically because they don't have those little sprockets in the front of the tank. These things. The drive wheels, or whatever the hell they're called. Because of that, you actually might get stuck on those stone gates or fences that you'll see around. after you run it over, you'll actually get stuck on it for a couple minutes or a couple seconds, and you won't be able to move. So you have to watch out with debris around you and be aware of your terrain, so that way if you're rushing back to your cap, you hit one of these fences, you're going to be sitting there stuck because you can't run over it. The view range is actually not that bad. Most scouts only have 350. This tank here has 390 meters of view range, which isn't bad. The weapons, I really don't like the 6-pounders for this tank destroyer. They're decent weapons, except they're really not that much better than the 25-pounder or even the 3.7. Yeah, the reload time's a little longer with the howitzers, but when it really comes down to it, you really need that alpha with this thing. You're not going to survive long enough unless you're platooning or you're just that good at tank destroying. But it's just, I find it easier just to use a 3.7 because most of the time they're up in my face anyway. So to me, the 25-pounder and the 3.7-inch howitzers are the way to go. You're just going to need that alpha because you just don't have the armor or the hit points to really sustain anything. So start out with the, you should have the 3.7 unlocked from the Valentine. Just slap it on it as soon as you get it. Get the tracks, get the engine, get the 25-pounder, you should be good. I think you should have the radio unlocked already. Yeah, Valentine. So that basically, well, talk about the guns a little more. The 25-pounder and the 3.7 will take out just about every Tier 4, all Tier 3s, Tier 2s, and Tier 1s in 1, maybe 2 hits. The only exception, like I said earlier, are AMX 40s, Matildas, and Valentines. And I think B1s, you have to hit them from the side. So you got to be aware of what targets you're aiming at, so that way you don't give away your position. By the way, the camo rating is pretty damn good. The 25-pounder is actually, I think it's one of the better weapons for this thing, because, yeah, penetration might only be 71. But it reloads in 5 seconds, so it's not really that much of a long reload time. And it does a crap load of damage. It does a lot of damage. And I have not been able to penetrate a KV with the 6-pounder, even though it should. But it's just, the fact of the matter is, if that KV angled itself, you're screwed. So you might as well just go to the 25-pounder to take out all the little guys and just let the Artie and the Sherman take out the KVs and the Churchills. So really, the 25, I believe, is the better way to go with this thing. You won't really regret it unless you're facing off against hordes of KVs, and you might as well, you might as well just give up. I've even tried to pen them with gold rounds that don't even work. So, equipment, tank unrammer, especially with the howitzers. Get the reload time down under 6 seconds, which isn't bad. You might also want to do camo nets and enhanced gun laying drive. That will slow down quicken up the aim time, because these things do take a little while to aim. So if you want to be quick on the draw, get the enhanced laying drive. Tactics, well, it depends on how you play it. I play it as more like a brawling tank, which sounds crazy since it doesn't have any armor, but if you know what you're doing, you can actually brawl pretty damn good at this with this thing. Mostly on city maps, that's where I got my most kills, because the enemy were idiots and they didn't really think of it as anything. They tried to rush me, and 25-pounder kind of took care of them. That's what that video was at the beginning. That little clip in the beginning of the video was. So, with the poor accuracy of this thing and the crappy range, you're gonna have to get close to them. And when you do that, you want to make sure what enemies you're engaging. So, say if you see a bunch of light tanks and you're going to engage them, you're going to go towards them, or you're going to sit, somewhere where you think you can intercept them. Go to that position and hope to God a KV or another tank like that doesn't show up. You got to pick your fights. If a KV shows up at your door with the 25-pounder, you're going to have to get the Arty's attention, or hopefully there's someone else around you that can actually pen the thing, because a 25-pounder won't do it. 3.7 may do it. It's a little bit iffy still. My buddy, we were engaging a Churchill. I couldn't hit it at medium range. He could damage it, even though he had the 3.7, I had the 25. So, just load HE rounds and just hope for something. With this gun as well, you want to load half and half AP HE. Gold rounds, I don't really see the need for gold rounds in this thing, because if it's not going to penetrate, the gold rounds aren't going to penetrate. Don't worry about it. 3.7 howitzer, that one's pretty decent, but it's very, very, very inaccurate. And it's slow, it's inaccurate, it's a low velocity cannon, so don't expect it to be racing, the round to be racing across the battlefield. It's not going to happen. The 6-pounders are more rapid fire. They don't do much damage. Classic British weapon. For some people, they might find a use for it. I don't. It's not my play style. At least with tank destroyers, I like alpha damage with my tank destroyers. With a side of death. Not just ping ping. I got enough of that with the Crusader and the Churchill. I don't want any more of it. I want alpha damage. That's the reason why I drive an IS. When you're fighting against the Alectos, the Alectos, don't get in close range with it until you find out what weapon it does have on it. You do not want to be caught, especially if you're at tier 4 and lower. You do not want to get caught in the front of this thing. Same thing with the Valentine. This thing will blow you to pieces. Basically, you want to keep out of the range of the 25-pounder, which isn't really that far, really. There's a good chance, my crew is trained up to 80, so I miss a lot. I miss about 60% of, 40% of my shots. Just stay at range. Sniping with this thing isn't really so good, so you want to stay at range. One of the ways to take this thing out, derping it. If you're in a Sherman, if you're above the tier, you should be all right, unless you're driving something thin-skinned like a Crusader. You want to stay at a distance. If you can hit it, if you're an Arty, hit the thing, it'll just detonate. There's really nothing stopping the round from causing any damage. There's no armor on this thing, really. Yeah, just remember it can kill most targets at medium to close range in 1 or 2 hits. So I would advise staying back and combat it at a distance. 105s, 10.7s, and even 75mm howitzers will make short work of this thing. Remember, this thing does not have any armor, and it does not have much health. Nearly this entire tank is a weak spot. If you're in a lower tier tank, just don't aim for this, and you'll be fine. Anywhere else is acceptable, and it will hurt it. This tank is actually a pretty fun tank. I've gotten 7 kills in it in a match. I'll put the link in the description. I actually do have a link, an actual video for it. I haven't had any problems with it besides fighting against just a select few tanks. KVs are my biggest problems. Churchills aren't so much of a problem because you don't really run into too many of those. AMX 40s, there's usually one in every 5 matches, so you just really got to pick your enemies and just use your tank to your advantage. Just use the speed, get up close, knock them out with 25. Just make sure you bring a buddy along just to back you up, just in case there's too many, or just in case there's a KV that'll show up. Other than that, there's really nothing else about this tank that's really spectacular. The armor sucks, but it's got a badass gun, and that's all we can hope for. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your day. CrazyToast out.